Miss LaTosha Bryant.
I know I've been changed. I know I've been changed. Oh no. I know I've been changed. You know the angels in heaven done sign my name. Oh Lord, come on, sing. I know I've been changed. Oh Lord, I know I've been changed. Oh Lord, I know I've been saved. You know the angels in heaven done sign my name. Amen. I had some thoughts of what I want to do, what I wanted to talk about, and I sat here and I was happy, and I looked around the room and saw some faces. And I said it, and I always do this before I speak. I ask God, I was like, God, what am I to say? How do I use this opportunity, this moment? What is it that we're supposed to bring in this space? And what kept coming to me, or even as I got up, I kept hearing grace in space. And I raise this because oftentimes we think that the way we're going to bring change is about politics. Y'all ain't what I believe. I believe that the way that we're going to bring change, it is going to be through love and power. And in order love and power to make it rooted in that, it is going to require us to give each other grace and space. And I'm saying that because it's never been just the strategy of the movement that has changed our people's conditions. It has always been the spirit of the movement that has actually told us who we are, has also given us space to understand each other, to forgive each other, to move forward, to speak truth to power. And I'm saying this because we'll get caught up in thinking that it's the politics that are going to change, and that we can become just like our adversaries. We can actually find ways that we can be disrespectful to each other. We can find ways that we can tear each other down, and that will not bring us the kind of America we want. That will not bring us the kind of justice that we want. And I say that because I'm feeling the spirit that in this moment, brothers and sisters, we got to stand in the spirit of truth, love, and power. And before I go forward, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say thank you, Mr. Sanders. It is all your fault. It is your fault that I'm here. I was working at 21st Street, minding my own young person business. And he said, I want you to come up in my office. And he said, I want you to join Alabama New South Coalition. Quite frankly, I heard of New South Coalition at the time. I was a young woman. I think I was 26 years old. And he said, I want you to join Alabama New South. And I wound up getting involved in New South. And I didn't know how to do anything but organize. Right? And so I wound up organizing. 2 years later, I wound up running for office. There's some lessons I want to share in this because I want to be real with you all. And I want us to be real with each other because that's how change is going to happen. Right? And so what wound up happening, 2 years later, I wound up running for State Board of Education. Now, it was really interesting because at the time, this was in 1998. And some of y'all that remember me, I had 2-strand twists on my hair. Right? I can't tell you that at the time, natural hair is not cool now. It was not cool in 1998 for a lot of folks. I can't tell you how many people, black folks, pulled me to the side and asked me why I had my hair like that. I'm saying this because I want y'all to hear me. I need y'all to hear me. Not only that, but in this midst, some of y'all may remember that I was running against Reverend Willie Paul, who was a pastor. And there were many churches that I went to speak to. And when I was going out campaigning at churches, they told me I couldn't speak at the church because I couldn't speak on the diocese because I was a woman. That I had to actually be on the floor. That actually happened to me 3 years ago between me and Cliff. They said I couldn't speak, he could because I was a woman. But nevertheless, I'm raising this for a reason, y'all. That happened to me in our community. so even in that whole space, I'm not raising as a challenge. I want y'all to hear. Some of y'all also may recall that in this election, the election was so close, it took them 7 days to call the election. That kept going back and forth, right? And on the 7th day, I got a phone call at 12 o'clock. By 12:05, Mr. Sanders called me and said, you're going to get a call from the Democratic Party. John Perkins called me about 2 minutes later, and this is the God honest truth, and said, Ms. Brown, there are 800 votes that are in Wilcox County. Wilcox County. That Wilcox County that the sheriff forgot that he put in the safe. And me and my naivety, I'm thinking, well, that means that's a county that I carried because that was in the black belt. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, at the end of the day, what I know is going to happen is if you count the votes, the vote spread was only 117 votes out of 80-some thousand votes. It was only 117 votes. So certainly I might be able to snatch up 118 votes and at least split it with the candidate. And he said, well, I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's already certified. It got certified at 12. He remembered at 12:05. And there was nothing I could do about it. I also remember that being blocked out where I couldn't go around the churches. And I had a friend at the time that worked in the governor's office, and actually he just borrowed the schedule of the governor. I don't know if I ever shared this. Borrowed I had a schedule where the governor would go. So let me tell you what I would do. I would show up everywhere the governor would show up. And so when I would get to the churches, all of the folks, the pastors thought the governor was endorsing me. And the governor thought that the folks were endorsing me. And one day he said, man, you everywhere. And I was thinking to myself, no, I'm just everywhere you are. And so in that space, I continued. And I remember I had gone to Paul Hubbard that I promised God I had $10 to my name. And I was in Montgomery, and I was trying to figure out how I was going to get me a chicken box or I was going to get this gas to get back to Selma. And so what I wound up doing, I wound up going to meet Paul Hubbard. Had called me. And at the time, Paul Hubbard was very powerful in the state of Alabama. He had called me over to AEA. I'm saying the right name was Paul Hubbard, right? At AEA. He called me over to AEA. And when I went to AEA, I had been there before, but when I got there, it was the biggest building I had ever seen in my life. I was like, this is the biggest building. I get in the building, the elevators, I was like, this is the most expensive elevator I ever been in. I walk out, and he had this huge office, and I thought to myself, I said, I can't fight these people. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, who am I? I can't fight these people. People were using the fact that I didn't have a degree against me. People were using the fact that I had natural hair. People were using the fact that I was a single mama with a 5-year-old child. Right? Everything that you're supposed to be a candidate, I was the opposite. Right? And so I go into Paul Hubbard's office and I sit down because I'm getting ready to give my Easter speech, right? And so as I'm getting ready to tell my speech who I am, he doesn't even let me talk. He just keep on talking. He was like, and it was almost encouraging. I remember one thing he said, I never put down old friends for new friends. And I kind of got it. He said, but I'm always open to make new friends. And I kind of got it. But then what I really got is, when I got ready to leave, he said, I got a little, because I asked, I said, Lord, I need some gas money. He said, I got a little gas money for you. And I was like, thank you, Jesus. And so I go downstairs, I get in the car, and I open up the check. It was for $10,000. And I was at a heart attack. I get in the car, and I run to the office. I went to Mr. Sanders' office, and I said, Mr. Sanders, I said, I think Paul Hubbard just gave me $10,000. I said, he gave me $10,000. Why? He said, you don't know? I said, no. He said, AP said you leading in the polls. I was like, I'm leading in the polls. He said, yeah. He said, you just might win this thing. I said, I thought I was supposed to. Right? But I'm raising all of these things. I also remember going to ADC. At the ADC convention, I wound up getting the endorsement in the room. Joe Reed called the endorsement, called the vote 3 times. Because he was like, let me tell you something. College Petway, I will never forget you and Perry Bonner fought for me like they tore the room up. Joe kept, he couldn't get that vote for nothing in the world. He said, we're going to vote for again, I won again. We're going to do this vote again, I won again. Then, by that time, they would have got him and Aaron Holmes and somebody else off the floor. This stuff they're going to talk about. But got them off the floor, came in the room, and he was just like, she just got endorsement. And the best thing they did is they wound up giving a dual endorsement. Right? So it wasn't that they did endorse me, but there was a dual endorsement. I'm raising all of those stories because those are some of the things that happened when we're going through this political process that can actually be hurtful, right? That can actually be harmful, that can actually shut you down, right? Pressure can destroy you, or it can transform you. And so I raised those. I wanted to come and share those stories, right? And there's many, many others that I can tell. You know, I wanted to come and share those stories because sometimes we're so busy at looking at the hardships in the moment, we don't see that God has given us a breakthrough. And we're not understanding that in the moment, that sometimes the way that if you know anything about what makes a diamond, is all a diamond is, y'all, is a piece of coal that under extreme pressure is transformed. And why do we know diamonds? We know diamonds because of their clarity. And when you stand in movement, even when people are taking lectures, even when people tell you that you can't run a campaign, even when people do all those things against you, when you stand in that space, that pressure will transform you. So when I said I'm standing here, I've been changed, I have been changed. But I wasn't just changed by the things that seem like it's good. You see me on MSNBC. I was doing this work before MSNBC knew I even existed. But it was doing the work that created the opportunity. And then when the time was right, and when the moment was right, God connected me to the resources, to the right people, and we were able to see the movement. I'm saying this because you got to persevere. If you saw this week, if you saw our justice, because she is going to be our justice. If you saw this week, and here's the McCann, the one thing, if you don't remember anything else from McCann, and she said persevere. I'm going to say something, I think this might even be a controversial. I'll say one of the hurtful things that happened to me as well. I was riding out working with some of my peers who were young Democrats. And I came over to Montgomery and I went to a dinner that night. And I got in that dinner and several of them were like, yeah, we wish we support you. And I'm thinking, yeah, they support me because they said they were. And so the next day I'm riding down to Greenville. I promise God y'all was happy. I'm riding down to Greenville and on the radio, there's a commercial with my peers who I thought were my friends that was saying that they were voting for my campaign. I'm raising this not about them because actually I love those folks. Right? I'm raising this that the things that are just meant to destroy you will make you stronger. All of those tricks that those white folks did with my campaign and stealing the election and some black folks too. In the black belt, y'all I mean meetings in Georgia, I was like, oh, this is all y'all got. Oh, okay. I'm in the White House, oh, this is what y'all got. Oh, okay. Those things which I didn't know at the time, they were not created to hurt and harm me. They were created to shape me and to give me experience and give me context so that when I lose a little something, it don't make me want to shut down because somebody don't like me. It don't make me not want to serve because I don't have a voice. It don't make me stop talking. And we got to think that way about ourselves. And so I'm raising that at the end of the day, sometimes we are all we got. And even when it's not about the winning of the victory, we got to shift around what victory looks like. Sometimes victory don't look like a campaign, you got the outcome you wanted. Let me tell you, even in that whole campaign that I ran, I decided that I was going to change because I was discriminated against. And that was the first time I experienced sexism, that I changed my campaign colors to pink and brown. Now, Miss Sam's almost had a heart attack. But I changed my colors. I walked around with pink suits. Everybody in Selma had pink t-shirts on, right? And I leaned into it. I actually ran my campaign the second time. I said a place for when I was going to use the sexism, instead of you using that against me, I was going to lean in the fact that I was a woman. What my campaign said is, a woman's place is in the house. So you say a woman in the house, you're absolutely right. Send me. Right? And so I'm raising that because we can use all of those things to actually shift. You can lean into. So instead of us moving away from this notion of what black voters are, we lean into it. Absolutely. We unapologetically black. We got the audacity to go around the country and meet with the media and say, we got the blackest bus in America. Y'all should see that face, the blackest bus, absolutely. Right? And at any particular moment in time, you will see it will look like the Rainbow Coalition that's riding in the bus, working with us, campaigning, because of the context of whenever you are operating in the fullness of your being, it opens up space for other people to be who they are. Right, so I'm saying this, I want to thank the Watts. I won't forget you, the work that you all did and nurtured me in this space in New South. I am y'all because of you. I created, this was my first space. I want to thank the Zipper. I won't forget you, I'll never forget you, Miss Zipper. I will never forget you, Mr. Zipper. You all telling us, I remember one thing is to this day. I remember Miss Pitts, who said something to me, we had done a camp, and she said, y'all got to work smarter, not harder. And my feelings was just tore up. I was so hurt. I couldn't believe that Miss Pitts said that to me. I was like, Miss Pitts, she said, because I interpreted that I wasn't working smart. The truth of the matter is I wasn't working smart. Right, on this particular thing that we had done to this day. Literally that wisdom that she deposited in me, I was like, I got to work smarter, not harder. I'm raising this because even in this moment, that it may even be difficult for this organization. And I don't even know what dynamics are here. I know what I feel in spirit. God has given me a gift that I'm able to feel spirit. That I know it, that we have to be honest. We have to stand in the space and let what comes forth, got to come forth. But it has to come forth in the spirit of love and truth. Right? It ain't good enough for us to say power is about bullying. If we gonna bully, hell, we might as well be like the folks that bully us. Right? If we're gonna be in a space that we're not going to literally speak truth to power in a way that recognize that I have a responsibility with truth. That I just can't say truth because I think it's true. That I also have a responsibility that as I use that truth, that I am not tearing you down, that I am liberating you. And we don't use that at times. But I'm saying that and we don't use that at times with each other. And so I'm asking you, brothers and sisters, if y'all don't remember nothing else I said, it don't matter if you remember my name, my organization, but at the end of the day, can we give each other a little grace and space? Can we do this work in a spirit of love and in a spirit of power? And what does power look like? Sometimes we think power looks like, I got to be the winner. I got to dominate. I got to be in position. You know what power looks like to me? Power looks like service. It looks like all of those sisters that didn't know me. I remember Doris Crenshaw. I was having a really, really hard day when I was running for office, and she came and gave me $100 in my hand. You know what? I was so naive, I didn't really know that people just write checks, just write personal checks. And I was thinking to myself, she gave me a check, and Bobby Singleton gave me $125. And when he gave me $125, I remember pulling up on the side of the road and crying. And it wasn't about the money. I remember what I felt. I felt supported in that moment. I felt seen in that moment. And I'm saying that, and at that moment, I decided that one day I was going to create an organization, that we were going to put some money in some hands. That one day I was going to create an organization, that even things that I have been frustrated in working in philanthropy are trying to get them to come down here. For years I was bringing tours. I was begging them. And it was interesting because the magic number, all I wanted them to do is invest $10 million in the South. I had every major foundation you named. That was my board. I worked for the funders. They was like, well, we got to get a study. So I got one study done. I commissioned one study. Well, we got to study this. I actually wound up getting 5 studies. Right? They couldn't figure it out, or for whatever reason it didn't happen. You know what I did? I quit. The funny thing is, I quit my job and I thought about it. Lord, I got this car, and I don't know how I'm going to get me a new car. I ain't got no job. So what I did is I went and bought a brand new car with my last paycheck stub, because I didn't know when I was going to get another car. And my auntie said, who drives a car when you ain't got no job? I said, that's the point. I got this last stub, and I might not get my job. So I'm going to go and get this car, and I really got me a car. And Cliff quit his job. And he and I promised to God we were not thinking about Black Voters Matter. So much so, we weren't even thinking about it as a job, right? So much so that we have been working with Black Voters Matter for 6 months, and I was thinking to myself, I'm sure I'm taking out my savings. I think I at least need to pay my mortgage. I might need to pay myself. We didn't even pay ourselves. We literally got in the car. We went to 7 states. We're in the back rows, and we just started talking to Black folks around this vision we had. And we wanted to know their vision, right? And what could they do? In less than 2 years, what funders couldn't do, who had all the resources in the world, last year alone, just in terms of who we wrote checks to, we wrote over $10 million. We gave $10 million to Black-led grassroots groups, 712 states. I'm saying that, and I'm not even saying that as a possibility. I'm not saying that I want y'all to hear what I'm saying about when you got a vision and God lines it up in the right time and you give yourself and your people grace and space, what can be created in their life? And then as a result of that, we wound up expanding to 12. Y'all folks heard what, oh, y'all were in Alabama, y'all were in Georgia. Oh, but we were in Pennsylvania. Go to Pennsylvania and ask black folk, black groups on the ground, who gave them resources. How they got gas money. How they got stuff that we know. You know why? Because we're organizers. Collins, we know that you got to have chicken boxes and you got to have a distribution to feed folks on election day. I learned that from you, brother. We got to know that we got to actually have people who are in place that are doing work. I learned that from the work. And so I'm raising that because what created this context for me started even in this very foundation of this organization. And so as we kind of think about how we go forward, you know, as we go forward, last year, one of the things we had decided to do with Black Voters Mountain, and then I'm going to ready to end because I'm quite sure I done went over my time. But what we do with Black Voters Mountain, we had decided 3 strategies. The first strategy was going to be around money, moving money. We were very clear from the beginning. We want to put some money in black folks' hands. Matter of fact, we probably set up about 25 organizations that didn't have nonprofit status initially. One of the things that we did when we would go meet with grassroots organizations, we would give them $1,000, and folks would say, well, what y'all giving us for this? What we got to do? We was like, nothing, you've already done it. Because we wanted to shift the whole strategy of how people think about that you got to prove to me. Right? If you've been doing work on the ground, we're looking for you. We're looking for you, and we want to support you and build capacity. Part of the reason we don't have Black Voters Mountain chapters is we weren't trying to do empire building. We weren't trying to create an organization just feed ourselves. We wanted to give the money away. We created an organization so we could actually support and build the capacity of other organizations. The second thing we want to do is we want to shift the narrative around how they were talking about black folk in the South. That all you heard was that the South was red, you can't win. That's not true, y'all. We looked at the numbers. Right, we can take the South. Right, but you gotta believe it. It is going to take work, but it is going to take organizing, and it is going to take building a coalition of righteous black folks, of white folks, of Asian people, of Black Americans. It is going to take building a coalition who are rooted in love and power. Y'all, this ain't rocket science. This ain't about politics. This is about the love of humanity. Do you have the humility to root the work in that, so that as we are changing the conditions of our people, we ourselves are changing. And so what I see over and over again, you don't have to give me another political speech. We done heard every political speech you can have. You don't have to just have another candidate that got on the nicest suit. We all done seen that. Our people are looking for hope. Our people are looking for hope. So as I get ready to go to my seats, I just want to leave what I always call a B strategy. I want you all to think about what I think we have to go forward with. And these are the B's. The first B is vision. I ask folks everywhere I go, I do it every single time because I really want people to start thinking differently. I want you to close your eyes right now, real quick. My question to you is, what would Alabama look like without racism?
Lord have mercy.
What would this state look like if every single human being in the state felt valued and respected? I ain't saying you gotta like it. Valued and respected. Now open your eyes. How many of y'all been asked that question? Have never been asked that question before? I'm raising that because we will continue to be in this hamster wheel of responding to somebody else's vision that didn't include us, unless we're creating a new vision, a radical reimagining of what is possible. And if we're not asking the question around what America or what Alabama looks like without racism, you will continue to respond to those who never could see that Alabama. So if you are to move people forward, you got to have a vision of what that looks like so that people can actually not look down here, but they can see up here. I was very intentional when we got that bus. The first bus the brother got, I said, I don't want that bus. He said, you don't want that bus? I said, no, I want a broke down bus. And Clint was looking at me, well, somebody got to pay for it. I said, don't worry about it, we'll pay for it. I wanted something that literally, I wanted the best. I told myself, I want the best bus we can find. I wanted tricked out. Why? Because I want our folks to stop and feel like they are deserving of the best. And it wasn't just about the bus, it was our message around having a bus that had the audacity to say Black Voters Matter on. I'm raising that because I want to ask you a question. Are you leading from pain, or are you have a message that you're leading from a place of pain, or is your message a message about what the possibilities that exist when our people are able to stand in the fullness of their power? That is what moves folks. And that is what's going to change us. And that is what's going to transform us. The second B is around voice. How are we using our voice in this moment? There's a Bible verse where when it says, can you speak to those dry bones? Can they live again? Can the dry bones live again? If you don't believe it will not happen. And at the end of the day, we continue to operate in the same space. We talking about folks who ain't even got no power. They're like the phantom star. Their time is gone. And we're still responding to them. Because we stuck back there when at the end of the day that we're in a new moment. And we're in a new time. But we got to show up new. And we got to be different. That ain't got nothing to do with your age. That ain't got nothing to do with who you are. It has to do with how are you grounded. And if you're grounded in the timing of the moment, then the third B is around what's your values. Your values are decided in how you treat people. How you show up in the world. Not just how you move. That's the goal. If we are to transform this state, we have to be transformed. And so I say that because I can tell you about hopelessness. We talking about Alabama. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, Georgia was not organized. I know I tell Ms. Anderson all the time. Like those rural, but it was the rural counties that said that literally it was the rural counties that pulled it through. They didn't win an election. They didn't flip the county, but what happened is they were not anticipating on those rural Georgia black belt counties come out. And what happened is when Atlanta came out the way it came out, those rural counties actually performed higher, and they cut the lead. That's why we only won by 11,000 votes, y'all. You actually can do that here in Alabama. But it's going to take a transforming of the message. It's going to take a transforming of the mind. Our people move by hope. I'm telling you, they move by hope. They don't move when you ain't got to tell folks about what oppression looks like. You really ain't. They feel it. They live it every day. But what you can do is give me some. Give me some. I understand. I know some folks out here talk about, I don't understand why somebody would go spend their income tax check and get them some $200 shoes. Yes, I do. I understand. They do it the same reason why somebody go buy a yacht. They want to feel good. They want to have something to look up to. They want to actually feel something that day. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. That's right. We're making judgment on folks because they're in pain and they just want a little bit of joy. Just a little bit of joy. And so I'm raising that because what pains me is I already know it ain't nobody that's stopping us, y'all. Right at the moment that we decide to not be oppressed, at the moment that we decide that this nation is going to change, at the moment that we decide that our power don't come from the Constitution, but it comes from God, we will show up differently. Everything around us is there. But y'all got to lead it. Y'all got to lead it. Because at the end of the day, it's not about folks saying, well, you know, we're doing this because they took prayer out of church. No, they took God out of prayer. Now prayer is about a political position. When in fact, it was so rooted in this idea that we love our neighbors, that we love each other, and that we all have the power of choice. Well, we done got to the point that we actually weaponize those beliefs to actually judge people and to put them down and to marginalize them. And so I'm raising this because my heart is crying out that what I know in this state where my great-great-great-grandmama looted, was bought as a slave, with her bought by my great-great-great-grand-uncle, taken down with a Molette bin, had her child, all of her children, of 20 children, every single one of them was sold except one. On this land.
Lord Jesus.
I'm raising that. You ain't gonna tell me that we are literally one block away from where your enslaved African sisters and brothers were brought up. That was Market Street right there. That at the end of the day, of the power will change, and yet we sit here. And we got the audacity to operate in a way that we don't give each other grace and space. So as I close, the last B, well, there's actually two more. But the y'all don't know the last one, because I'm gonna make y'all say it. But this other B is really around what is a victory.
Come on.
See, I didn't know that when I lost that State Board of Education seat, I didn't know that the purpose of me running, the purpose of that election was to teach me about voter suppression, because at one point, 20 years later, I would actually be considered a national expert on voter suppression. I didn't know that, right? I just thought that I lost. And I just thought that I got cheated. And I just thought that somebody had done something for me. And a fire got lit in me around voter suppression, right, from that day forward. And so I'm raising that, because even if we got to shift what a victory looks like. I didn't know that a victory would look like that I wasn't allowed. I experienced sexism in my own community that would allow me to be a part of a group of women who met with the president. Early on, it was like, listen, I was real clear. If you're not picking a woman to run for you for president, then I hope these white men put it off for you. Real clear. And I'm saying that because it was literally my experience even in sexism that God gave me the courage to lean in the fact that I was a woman, and that women were excluded from these processes, even these processes that seem normal to us, right? And so in this moment where Alabama may look like, it don't look good. We looking at the spectrum, it look like, I'm sitting there looking at commercials because I'm down here every week to see my aunt. I'm looking at commercials and it seems like the election's about who is Trump's best friend. And so in that space, y'all, all I'm asking you from my heart is to tap into the spirit of who you are. And I'm not even talking about in a religious context. Because in South Alabama, we got 2,000 churches. And if really we were rooted in grace and space and the transformational power of God, we would not have that kind of violence there. So that in itself ain't enough, y'all. It is, are we living a life? Are we standing in a space that we're giving each other grace and space, and we're organizing through love and power? Because love changes things, right? And we can stand and it roots in our power. So as we do this and shift this whole paradigm of what a victory, that a victory isn't around 2018. They stole that election from us in Georgia. You know how hard we worked? We worked so hard, I wound up being in the hospital. And we were devastated. And the next day, we were like, all right, come on. I was like, what we did, we turned all that anger, and we came in back in 2020 and beat them like they stole something. They were still, they were like, what? In the midst of COVID, in the midst of they did steal something. Right? So I'm saying that is that you take what looks as the defeat and transform that to be the very thing to elevate you. And in this space, Alabama, New South Coalition, where are you in this moment? How will you stand up in a space that you are providing grace and space for yourselves, for each other, for our people, for all people? New South Coalition, how are you standing in a space of love? How are you speaking love? How are you being love? How are you giving yourself the opportunity to feel it, to stretch it, the truth? New South Coalition, what does power look like? Does it just look like a transaction and an election? Are we going to move beyond that and literally move it in a space that we are going to build a righteous coalition of black folk and white folks and Latinos and indigenous people and Asian Americans? Y'all, I see it. Can you see it? Yes. When I close my eyes and I ask what America would look like without racism, that's what I see. Can't you see it? Yes. Will you fight for it? Yes. And so the last week, I'm going to say, I think y'all might know what this one is. When I say black voters, you say matter. Black voters. Matter. Black voters. Matter. When I say love, you say power. Love. Power. Love. Power. The last B is vote. That we got to vote, but we got to connect that vote to our values, to our vision, to our voice, to our victory, and our shift in our victory. It's possible. The moment is enough folk in this room. I'm serious. There's enough people in this room. Y'all can take the stage. Right? But you can't go back the same way. You got to be different. You got to shift different. You got to organize. The next New South Coalition meeting y'all have, folks should bring just like they did us. I remember Mr. Sanders would take me to meetings, and I was like, what am I supposed to do? He said, not just sit there. And we go to the Senate, and I sit in the meetings, and to this day, I didn't know it at the right? And so I raised this. I remember my brother Bobby Singleton. Bobby and I would go and go around and talk to folks, and he would have me in every little fish joint in Hill County or throughout the district. I learned from that. That was part of my shaping. So each of us have something to offer. Each of us have something to give. But at the end of the day, all of us want to be loved. And all of us want just a little bit of power. And it is possible, but it's going to take you got to believe. If you don't believe, it won't happen. So in that space, I'm just going to end. I'm going to end my speech with what I feel. This little light of mine